Have you ever wondered why two people can face the same challenge, yet one panics while the other remains calm, quiet as a still autumn lake? The ancient Stoics discovered a powerful truth. Self-control is not a gift you're born with. It is forged, slowly, deliberately, through principles that are simple to understand, yet incredibly hard to live by. They believed, if you can control your mind, you can control your life. And in this video, you'll uncover how masters like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca built a level of inner discipline so steady, it seemed nothing could shake them. These aren't hacks, not bursts of motivation, but principles tested by war, loss, power, and time. To the Stoics, self-control was never about suppressing emotions or pretending to be an unfeeling stone. Self-control is the ability to see clearly what belongs to you, and what does not. Epictetus said, "Freedom begins the moment we understand the limits of our power." Human suffering does not come from the chaos of the world, but from our desperate attempt to control things that were never ours. Other people's opinions, future outcomes, or events already written in time. The tighter we cling, the more powerless we feel. That is why the first principle of Stoic self-mastery is: distinguish what is within your control. Marcus Aurelius, both an emperor and a philosopher, had to make life or death decisions amid war, plague, and betrayal, yet each morning, he reminded himself, "Today I will meet the ungrateful, the envious, the selfish, but they cannot harm me unless I allow them to." He could not control people's actions. He could only control his response. The Stoics believed that most of our pain comes from reacting too quickly. Anger at an insult, despair in failure, panic at what might happen. They trained self-control not by running from emotion, but by observing it from the distance of reason. They asked a simple question: does this depend on me? If the answer was no, they let it go. Not out of weakness, but out of liberation. A refusal to waste life fighting unwinnable battles. If the answer was yes, they acted, calmly, decisively, without the noise of inner chaos. Stoic self-control is not a suit of armor. It is a quiet space within you. A space wide enough for emotions to pass through without dragging you with them. A clarity that reveals the best choice when others see only disorder. Seneca warned, "If you do not rule yourself, you will be ruled by everything around you." And this is the Stoic paradox. They did not seek to control the world. They built an inner fortress strong enough that the world could not control them. The Stoics did not sit and wait for tranquility to arrive. They trained it the way a blacksmith forges a blade. Through repetition, discomfort, and countless silent moments no one ever sees. They believed, a person's true nature is revealed in moments of difficulty. And to prepare for those moments, they practiced three core disciplines. 1. Negative visualization, preparing the mind for loss. Every day, the Stoics spent a few minutes imagining what could go wrong. Loss, betrayal, failure, illness, even death itself. Not to become pessimistic, but to remind themselves that everything is fragile. When you imagine adversity before it arrives, you stop fearing it. When you remember that everything can disappear, you become present, grateful, awake. Seneca wrote, "Prepare your mind for sudden change, so nothing will ever truly surprise you." 2. Voluntary discomfort, strengthening the will. The Stoics deliberately stepped into small hardships. Fasting, cold showers, sleeping on the floor, walking in the rain, or giving up conveniences they were used to. Not to punish themselves, but to practice a deeper truth. You are stronger than you think. You can live without what you believe you depend on. When the world takes your comfort away, it no longer feels like an attack, only a familiar visitor. Self-control begins when you can look at discomfort and say, "I've been here before." 3. The pause before reaction, guarding the mind. Powerful emotions, anger, fear, sadness, pull people into impulsive actions. The Stoics trained the art of the sacred pause. A brief silence before responding. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Give your mind the space to separate thoughts from facts." In that small pause, you gain time to breathe slowly, observe the emotion rising, choose the most skillful response. That is the moment reason returns to the driver's seat. That is when you stop being controlled by emotion. The Stoics understood that self-control is not about winning every battle. It is about seeing yourself react less impulsively each day. Less quickly, less violently, less easily pulled by the world around you. They never tried to become superhuman. They simply wanted to become calmer, clearer, freer, one day at a time. Through these daily disciplines, they built an inner strength the world could not shake. A calm that wasn't luck, but training. A self-mastery not granted by circumstance, but forged by preparation. A spirit that stands firm, even when the storm arrives. Every Stoic practice, negative visualization, voluntary discomfort, the sacred pause, leads to one ultimate goal: inner freedom. A kind of freedom untouched by circumstances, beyond the reach of success or failure, and immune to the chaos of the external world. Epictetus said, "No one can make you free or enslaved, except yourself." The Stoics saw the world as an ocean, always shifting, always unpredictable, always ready to drown the unprepared. But in the middle of that restless sea, they built an anchor no one could reach, a disciplined, awakened mind. 1. Freedom from the domination of emotions. Most people are pulled by their emotions like a boat without a rudder. A single insult ruins the entire day. A small setback damages our sense of worth. A quiet fear stops us from becoming who we might be. The Stoics did not treat emotions as enemies. But they knew that if emotions lead, the mind becomes a prisoner. Self-control gives us the freedom to feel without being destroyed. As Seneca wrote, "Emotion is a visitor, not the master of the house." 2. Freedom from the obsession with control. We constantly plan, calculate, and struggle in the hope of controlling everything. People's opinions, future outcomes, the path events will take. But the world follows its own logic. The more we cling, the more we suffer. The Stoics chose another path. Letting go of what is not theirs to command. Not out of apathy, but out of wisdom. This gives them a rare kind of freedom. Freedom from impossible expectations. Freedom from outcome obsession. Freedom from the belief that happiness depends on things going exactly right. 3. Freedom to be who you truly are. When emotions no longer drag you. When the world no longer forces you to control everything. Something remarkable happens. You begin to see yourself clearly. Not the version society demands. Not the shadow distorted by fear. But your true nature. Calm, grounded, unwavering. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Look within, inside you is a wellspring of strength that never runs dry." That is where inner freedom lives. That is where every Stoic practice leads. When someone reaches this level of self-mastery, the world can touch them, but it cannot shake them. Praise does not make him arrogant. Criticism does not make him crumble. Loss does not break them. Hardship does not terrify them. They still feel everything, but nothing owns them. And that is the highest form of freedom. Freedom not granted by society, wealth, or power, but by a mind trained to stand firm, no matter how fierce the storm becomes. When someone achieves inner freedom, they are not calm only in peaceful moments. They remain calm even when life turns violent and unpredictable. To the Stoics, self-mastery was never about escaping suffering. It was about standing firm when suffering arrives. Not about avoiding responsibility, but carrying it with clarity and dignity. This is the highest level of self-control. Steadfastness in adversity. 1. Steadfastness is not numbness. A calm person is not calm because they feel no pain. They are calm because they do not let pain command them. Marcus Aurelius lost his wife, his children, and faced plague and war on multiple fronts. Yet in his journal, we find no bitterness, no despair. Instead, we see a man quietly reminding himself, "If fate demands that I endure, then I will endure with dignity." Steadfastness is the ability to maintain your character, even when the world around you tries to pull you downward. 2. Steadfastness is choosing your response, not your emotion. You cannot decide to not feel pain, but you can decide how you walk with that pain. You cannot stop sadness from appearing, but you can choose not to let it define you. The Stoics ask themselves, does this reaction help me become the person I want to be? If the answer was no, they let it go. If yes, they embraced it as part of their growth. 3. Steadfastness comes from living with purpose. When the inner world becomes strong, you are no longer knocked off course by small frustrations. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You no longer chase validation from the crowd. You move with intention because you know where you are going. Seneca wrote, "No wind is favorable to the sailor who does not know his destination." Purpose gives the Stoic firmness. They know what truly matters, and what is merely noise. They know what to protect, and what to release. They do not let the world's turbulence steer them away from their direction. 4. Steadfastness is becoming your own place of refuge. There are moments when life brings storms without warning. No one comes to rescue you. No hand reaches out. No comforting words are enough. There is only you, and the inner strength you have been building for years. That is why the Stoics always return inward. Not to escape the world, but to find a foundation strong enough to rise again. Self-control does not make you perfect. It makes you untouched by the distortions of circumstance. It allows you to stay upright when others break, to stay calm when others panic, to stay kind when others turn cruel. That is not just strength. It is dignity. And when you reach this state, life may bring storms, but within you, there will always be a sky without storms. The Stoics did not merely learn to endure adversity. They learned to transform it. No winter is long enough to bury life forever. No suffering is great enough to extinguish a mind that has been trained to stay awake. To them, adversity is not the end of the path. It is the doorway to a stronger version of oneself. 1. Adversity as a teacher. In every hardship, the Stoic asks, what can I learn from this? Not to deny the pain, but to look through it, to see the lesson hidden within. A harsh criticism becomes a lesson in patience. A failure becomes a lesson in humility. A loss becomes a reminder of impermanence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." The Stoic does not avoid the stone in the path. They use it as a step forward. 2. Adversity as a chance to practice virtue. In Stoic philosophy, virtue, courage, honesty, steadiness, only becomes real when tested. Courage cannot be born on a sunny day. Calm cannot grow when everything is easy. Kindness is not deep unless it is given when others are unkind. Adversity gives us a chance to live the values we claim to believe in. Seneca wrote, "No one knows how good they are until they are tested." 3. Adversity as a mirror for the inner self. When life is peaceful, it is easy to believe we are strong, wise, and compassionate. But only when hardship strikes do we see ourselves as we truly are. It reveals what we have not yet mastered, the fears we have not faced, the wounds we still hide. And it is this revelation that allows us to grow. The Stoic does not run from that mirror. They face it with honest courage. And from that honesty, transformation begins. 4. Adversity as the key to freedom. When you no longer fear adversity, you become free. When you learn to see pain as part of the journey, life can no longer threaten you. You stop avoiding. Stop clinging to control. Stop shrinking when challenges appear. You become the person who can look at the storm and say, "I am grateful for this test." In that moment, adversity is no longer an enemy. It becomes an ally, pushing you toward a level of inner strength no calm day could ever create. Stoic self-mastery does not just help you stand firm in the storm. It helps you grow because of the storm. It is the art of turning suffering into strength, turning obstacles into steps, turning wounds into wisdom, turning life, however turbulent, into a journey of resilient, deliberate, and profound transformation. At the highest level of Stoic self-mastery, a person does more than stand firm in adversity. They do more than transform suffering into strength. They go beyond all of that. They learn to love what life brings. Not resignation, not passive surrender, but active acceptance, a wisdom so deep it becomes liberating. The Stoics called this amor fati, to love one's fate. 1. Acceptance is not defeat. We often believe that acceptance means giving up. But the Stoics understood a powerful truth. What you resist will imprison you. What you accept will free you. Acceptance is not about liking the situation. It is about stopping the waste of energy on what cannot be changed, and directing all your focus toward what you can influence. When you can say, "All right, this is what is happening. Now I will do the best I can." In that moment, you reclaim your power. 2. Acceptance turns the present moment into an ally. The present is perfect in one profound way. It is the only thing you truly have. The Stoics never asked, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, they asked, "Who is life asking me to become right now?" Every challenge becomes an invitation to grow stronger, to grow wiser, to grow kinder, to grow deeper. We do not choose the cards we are dealt, but we always choose how we play them. 3. Acceptance aligns us with the flow of the universe. The Stoics believed that life has its own current. Sometimes smooth, sometimes violent, sometimes lifting us, sometimes knocking us down. No one can resist that current, but we can learn to move with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A stone thrown against the wind cannot change it, but the wise adjust their sails." Acceptance is understanding that the universe is not against you. It is merely unfolding according to its nature. Your task is to adapt, and keep moving. 4. Acceptance brings a naturally peaceful heart. When someone no longer resents the past, no longer rejects the present, and no longer fears the future. They begin to live with a quiet heart. Not because life has become easier, but because they have become deeper. This serenity is the result of every exercise, every challenge, every storm endured, and every moment they chose acceptance over resistance. 5. Amor fati, loving what comes, and loving what leaves. The highest form of acceptance is not merely agreeing with life. It is being grateful for what life gives, whether joy or hardship. Understanding that what arrives teaches us happiness, what leaves teaches us maturity. Recognizing that every chapter is necessary, every event has meaning, every moment has value. A person who lives this way becomes strangely free. No more bitterness, no more inner conflict, no more fear of what has yet to happen. They live in harmony with their own life. The Stoics held a simple but profound truth about life. Everything will change. Everything we love will transform. Nothing stays with us forever. But instead of fearing impermanence, they learn to walk with it, like an old companion they've known for years. Because impermanence is what reminds us to live, to appreciate, to awaken to the present moment. 1. Impermanence helps us live more fully. The Stoics never avoided the truth that everything has an ending. They faced it, and because of that, they lived more deeply. When you know a sunrise may be the last one you ever see, you look at it with your whole heart. When you know those you love cannot stay with you forever, you treat them with more kindness, more gratitude, more tenderness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you will live 10,000 years. Death hovers over you." But instead of creating fear, these words awaken presence. 2. Impermanence helps us let go. We suffer most when we cling to what is trying to leave. A relationship that has run its course. A success that belongs to yesterday. An old version of ourselves that no longer fits. Impermanence reminds us. Everything has its season. Some things arrive to teach us love. Some things leave to teach us release. The Stoics did not resist endings. They allowed life to keep flowing, like a river that never tries to hold on to the water that just passed. 3. Impermanence strengthens us before loss. No one escapes loss. But the Stoics prepared their minds for it. Not through pessimism, but through courageous honesty. They didn't pretend grief didn't exist. They accepted it as an inseparable part of being human. Seneca wrote, "Nothing that is yours is truly yours. It is only on loan." And with that understanding, loss becomes less of a bottomless pit, and more of a lesson in appreciation. 4. Impermanence teaches us to live with a lighter heart. When you stop demanding life to stay exactly as you want, you begin to see the beauty in every small moment. A simple morning, a brief hug, a quiet conversation, a warm glance. All of them precious, precisely because they will not return. And when you learn to love these fleeting moments, your heart becomes incredibly light. 5. Serenity in impermanence is the art of living in the present. Impermanence cannot be changed, but we can change how we move with it. The Stoics chose to not regret the past, not fear the future, not resist the present. They lived with a serenity like a lake in gentle wind. Not because the wind never blows, but because the lake has learned to reflect instead of fight. Impermanence does not take away our peace. It only takes away the illusion that things will stay forever. And once that illusion disappears, we begin to live truly, deeply, gratefully, consciously. That is the gift of impermanence, and one of the greatest lessons of Stoic wisdom. After all the training, all the challenges, and all the honest confrontations with pain, the Stoic reaches a final inner state. Equanimity. Not the equanimity of someone who feels nothing, but the equanimity of someone who understands their emotions, lives alongside them, and refuses to be ruled by them. It is a peace that does not come from the world, but from an inner architecture shaped through years of discipline. 1. Equanimity is cultivated, not inherited. Many people believe peace is natural, something you find by going somewhere quiet. But the Stoics knew, true peace is not out there. It is in how you relate to everything. A person who does not understand their fears, who has not faced their wounds, who has not explored their inner landscape, will not find peace even on a silent mountain. Peace must be trained, not found. 2. Equanimity does not mean withdrawing from the world. The Stoics did not hide in caves or forests. They lived in the world, amid responsibilities, noise, pressure, expectations. But wherever they went, they carried a quiet flame inside. Seneca wrote, "A peaceful mind makes any place a refuge." Meaning, you do not need the world to be calm for your soul to rest. You only need to know how to return to yourself. 3. Equanimity comes from knowing what deserves your energy. When a person understands themselves, they stop wasting strength on meaningless conflicts. Stop reacting violently to small annoyances. Stop being triggered by things that do not matter. They ask one simple question: is this worth my peace? If not, they let it go. Not because they have lost, but because they refuse to spend even one moment on what is unworthy. This is the quiet power of clarity. 4. Equanimity is the balance between effort and surrender. The Stoic is not passive. They act with all their ability, but without desperation for results. They give their best, and release the rest. They understand that worry does not make good things happen. Fear does not prevent bad things. And over-control only exhausts the mind. When this balance is achieved, the mind becomes calm like the sea after the wind has passed. 5. Equanimity is the gift of a mind that has overcome itself. Peace is not a reward given by the world. It is a reward you give yourself. After you have understood who you are, built self-discipline, endured loss, learned acceptance, and seen life's nature clearly. From this point on, a person focuses only on what matters, living lightly but deeply, steady without being rigid, free without being selfish. When someone reaches equanimity, they are no longer pulled up and down by every wave of life. They become the ocean, where waves come and go, but none of them can change the color of the sea. This is the quiet beauty of a soul that has mastered itself. And it is one of the highest realms of Stoic philosophy. After reaching equanimity, the Stoic does not stop at inner peace. Peace is the foundation. But from that foundation, they begin to build. This is the final transformation. From someone who reacts to life, to someone who shapes their own life. No longer tossed by emotion. No longer distorted by fear. No longer led by external noise. They become the architect of their fate. 1. To live deliberately is to live by the values you choose. Most people live by habit, by pressure, by fear, by expectation. But the Stoic lives by an inner compass. They know their core values: integrity, calmness, kindness, courage, freedom, and they are willing to stand alone, if that is the price of being true. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Do not be swayed by the clamor of the crowd. Return to the justice within your own heart. This is the essence of someone who governs their destiny. 2. To live deliberately is to act, not wait. The Stoics did not believe in luck as a gift. They believed in preparation, discipline, and persistence. They do not wait for motivation to arrive. They act first. And in action, motivation is born. Faced with a goal, they ask, "Is this within my power?" If yes, they begin immediately. If no, they adjust themselves rather than blame the world. This is the quiet strength of self-direction. 3. To live deliberately is to face the uncomfortable truth. Most people avoid truth. Avoiding their weaknesses. Avoiding criticism. Avoiding their own mistakes. But the Stoic seeks growth. And growth demands honesty. Seneca wrote, "He who avoids the truth avoids the chance to heal." Stoic action is not about doing everything. It is about daring to confront what must change. 4. To live deliberately is to shape each day like a work of art. The Stoics saw life as a sculpture. Every action is a chisel strike. Every decision is a contour. Every hardship endured is a piece of excess stone carved away. They do not compare themselves with others. They ask only, "Am I better today than yesterday?" The goal is not perfection, but continuous refinement. 5. To live deliberately is to leave a mark of awareness on the world. The Stoics believed that each person has a responsibility to humanity. Not through noise, but through meaningful presence. A self-mastered soul brings calm to those around them, steadiness to their community, clarity to important decisions, kindness to every place they go. They live slowly, live deeply, and in doing so, become a quiet source of light in the world. Living deliberately is not about changing everything. It is about changing yourself first, and letting the rest of life adjust to who you've become. This is the peak of the Stoic journey. Not just standing firm, not just staying calm, but consciously crafting a life of dignity, freedom, and meaning. Looking back at the entire Stoic journey, from self-discipline, transformation through adversity, acceptance of impermanence, to deliberate living, we realize something profound. Everything has been guiding us back to one place, ourselves. Not the surface level self shaped by ego, praise, or insecurity, but the deep self, the one that holds a stillness untouched by anything outside. The Stoics did not search for strength in the world. They searched for strength within. In how they viewed the world. In how they faced suffering. In how they chose their responses. In how they lived by the values they believed in. And when we walk far enough on this path, we discover, it is not that the world becomes less chaotic, but that we become steadier. It is not that life becomes easier, but that our minds expand enough to hold its difficulties. This is the quiet realization of Stoicism. We cannot control the storm, but we can become the sky. The sky does not argue with the wind. It does not cling to clouds. It does not run from thunder. It simply is, vast, calm, resilient. And eventually, every storm dissolves within it. When we become the sky of our own lives, life is no longer something to fear. It becomes a journey we can walk with freedom, dignity, and serenity. If you've listened this far, it means there is a part of you longing for change. A part that wants to live slower, deeper, steadier. A part that is tired of reacting impulsively, and wants to begin living by choice, not by force. Know this. You don't have to become a Stoic in one day. You don't need to embody Marcus Aurelius overnight. You only need to begin, with small steps. One deep breath before anger. One moment observing your feelings before reacting. One note of gratitude at the end of the day. One act of honesty with yourself. One simple question. Is this within my control? These small things, done daily, will slowly become the force that lets you live a life that cannot be easily shaken. You do not need to search for peace anywhere else. It has always lived inside you. You only need to learn how to return to it. And when you return to it often enough, your mind becomes home. A home no one can steal. No hardship can destroy. No storm can collapse. A home made of stillness, deliberate action, freedom, and a life lived on your own terms. That is the greatest gift of Stoic philosophy.